Hey guys, welcome to another video of Humanity Awakened. This video is what's known as the 4F responses, which is when someone is in a threatening situation, they'll do one of four things. They'll fight, that's flight, fawn, or freeze. Fight is literally like the perceived threat. Flight is they run away. Fawn is people pleasing in order to prevent that that threat from harming them or perceived threat. And the fourth one is freezing, which is like dissociating and like checking out on a conscious level from being there in that situation because it's so intense, and unfortunately you didn't have the other three options, let's say, that's just the type of reaction. So this is something I learned in Pete Walker's book, which I just finished recently. I'm going to read it again. An amazing book called Complex-PTSD, From Surviving to Thriving. You can get this online. You can listen to this on YouTube. You can get it online. There's an audiobook on YouTube, the entire book. He also has a website, which I'll leave in the link below, with a bunch of articles. And there's also things. There's reactions to these people who they how they react based off of like their temperaments and their situation and whatnot, and how which one they'll be. He also mentions that usually we're a hybrid and of more than one, but predominantly we choose one. So what becomes of these people when it's prolonged, if I understood correctly, of, let's say, the fight type, they'll become a narcissist, as just like a knee-jerk reaction to being in a continuum of prolonged abuse or neglect in their life. The flight will become obsessive or / compulsive, and the freeze will become this. They're the ones that dissociate. They like check out from being in that situation. And then the fawn is they become codependent. And he goes way more into it, and definitely recommend it. But I just want to point out those four F's to abuse or neglect or perceived danger of how people react. It says here it's an innate automatic response to danger in all human beings. So I also wanted to mention that these things, like, they're not spoken about enough. Like, in my head, I'm like, why isn't this like common knowledge? And so I want to emphasize again to start making let's start making this more and more public knowledge. Like recently, it's becoming slowly more to the mainstream, but to my limited understanding, unfortunately, a part of it why it's not mainstream still, or not as mainstream as it should be, is because it's just like I mentioned before, it's not lucrative. It's not lucrative if people start to heal and get better and no longer need medication or no longer use unhealthy coping mechanisms of like alcohol or heavy drugs or pornography or whatever it is that people will use to cope from this unresolved trauma and these feelings of the toxic shame that happens from people that, depending on, again, their temperaments and the environment and how long it was that they've experienced the trauma or traumas. But these things I want to emphasize to really let's make this more public knowledge. Let's help people have a better relationship with themselves and hence with other people. You first have to love yourself before you can love other people. You can only love according to that level of loving of the self. And the lack of education and the lack of knowledge behind the psychoeducation, psychology, specifically, I'd say childhood neglect and trauma, like as the roots of where the primary of this trauma of these things that people go through. Unfortunately, it stems from the home or from the caretakers. And it's not a conscious thing that the caretakers are doing. It's just like those who don't learn from the past are bound to repeat the past. And this stuff recently is coming out in the last half a century, and even more recently, the last decade, or maybe a little more or less, give or take. But it's so important now that the information's out here. Let's continue to spread this. Let's continue to. This should be mainstream information. This should be stuff that's taught in a school. This should be stuff that's taught in a community. This should be stuff that's everyone has a copy in their home that the parents know about. The parents can teach to their kids. The parents can have that awareness about. So not to continue this abuse, these abuses, and these neglected upbringings that kids go through, and not to continue the suffering that so many people are going through because of the unresolved traumas. So until next video, these are the 4 F's. Take care.